Need help with your homework?
Hi, Hank. How do I get my base level for my pavers?
So yes, getting the proper base for your concrete pavers is one of the most important parts of the total installation job. In fact, I tell people, getting the base in and right is 70% of the project. So what I've got here is I've got some gravel. Now on a typical walkway or patio, I recommend at least 6 inches of processed gravel. And that's anything from 3/4 stone down to sand mixed together. Road base is another name for it, but when you ask for it, processed gravel. Now, I always recommend, like I said, 6 inches. I would put down a couple of inches and compact it. Then I put down another couple of inches and compact it. Get it nice and tight. Never try and put down 6 or 7 inches and think you're going to be able to get it nice and compacted tight in one shot. Just doesn't work that way. What would happen to you is, yes, the walkway or patio will look great this spring, but over the winter when the water gets in there and it freezes and thaws and settles, come next spring, you'll have one of these in your patio or walkway. So take the time. A good foundation, a good gravel base is like a house foundation. You can build the most beautiful house, but if you don't do it correctly on the foundation, all the rest will fall apart. So I've got my tamper, so I've got my last layer of gravel here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around, I'm just going to tamp it nice and tight. Now remember, I'm not trying to get my gravel perfectly level. That's not its job. Its job is to provide a good firm foundation for my pavers. So I just want to get all the air out of it, get it nice and tight, because it's the sand's job to lay the brick. So now that I've got a nice good gravel base, next thing I'm going to do is I've got my tools here. I've got some grade stakes. I'm going to set my grade stakes up on either end, run my string between the grade stakes. Then I'll take my conduit. This is 1-inch steel conduit. You can get it at any box store or electrical supply company, but make sure you get the steel. Don't get the plastic. You want something nice and rigid, and you'll see what we're going to do. We're going to be dragging across the top of it. I'll set my conduit pipe. I'll grab my screed over there, throw some sand down, and I'll screed across the top, and that's going to give me a nice level surface for my pavers. So now we got all of our gravel in place. We got nice and compacted. Now the next step here is we're going to set our grade stakes so we can start measuring out where we want our pavers to end up. So I'm going to start, I got my 2 grade stakes here. I'm going to use the larger one right here. And I'm just going to drive this into the ground. Get it started here. Now, I'm only doing a small area here of about a couple of feet. If I was doing a walkway or a patio, I would set 1 grade stake just outside the edge of the patio on one side. And let's say I was doing a 40-foot walk, my other grade stake would be 40 feet away on the other side. So I've got my 2 grade stakes here. Get this one started. I'm lucky I'm going through some nice soft gravel here, but I want to get them nice and tight. So I've got my grade stakes now in the ground. My next step, I've got my mason's twine, and the reason why I use mason's twine as opposed to any other, mason's twine is very flexible. I'll be able to string it all out. So I've got my string. Now I'm going to set my string up onto my grade stakes here. So I set it up at one end, and again, you know, I'm imagining that this is a 40-foot long or a 50-foot long walkway or patio. This is always the hard part, getting this knot to stay on this side. And as I said, I'm using mason's line because it's nice and tight. It'll stretch a little bit. So what I may do is I just may loop it up and around, get it nice and snug here. All right. So now once that's snug, I've got a small line level here, and this is a level specifically made to sit onto a piece of string like this. So my string is a little bit off center, so I'm gonna not level, so I'm gonna bring the level down here just a hair, and I'm gonna bring my level up here, bring this string up here. Now it doesn't matter what the height of this string is, and I'll explain that to you in a second. All I gotta do is make sure it's level. So right now, I'm right between the bubbles, so I know that this part here is level. So now that my string is all nice and level, I grab my conduit and I set it right underneath that string. And I take my ruler and I'm gonna measure down. Now remember, my conduit is 1 inch diameter, which is the thickness of the sand bed that I want. So over here, 8.5 inches. And now I want to go to the other end of my conduit and make sure that I'm 8.5 inches. And I'm a little high. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take my conduit, I'm gonna squeeze it into the ground a little bit. On this end, measure again. I'm 8.5 inches. And on this end, now I'm 8.5 inches. So now I know my conduit is level with my string. And this is going to be, this area here is going to be the base of my pavers. I'll grab my second conduit and I set it. Now, if I was using, say, a 4-foot screed, which is about as long as you really want to use a screed, because any more than that, and that's a lot of sand to try and pull. So I would, in a true walkway, put this about 3 feet away. And so now I've got my second conduit. So now I come over and I grab my level. And what I'm going to do is I set it on my conduit. And this one's a little high. You can see I've got to get it down to here. So I'm going to dig this into the soil just a little bit on this end. Still a little bit high. And I can tell right now I'm going to be a little high on this side. Now, my goal here, okay, is I'm pretty good on that side. And now I look on this side and geez, I'm pretty good. In fact, I got to come up just a hair on this side. So I can just throw a little bit of gravel underneath this side. So now I'm level. Now I know my conduit is parallel to each other and they're level straight across. And once I know that, just kind of rough that gravel in there a little bit just to kind of help hold them in place. Now I'm ready to screed my sand. And again, remember the bedding sand, its whole purpose is just to be level for a good place to put my brick down. So it could be a 1/2 inch in some areas, it could be 1 1/8 in others. Don't worry, you're not trying to get a perfect 1 inch across. Its whole job is just to get level. So I had previously filled this little bucket full of sand. So now I'm going to take my sand, I'm going to dump it, being careful not to move my conduits. Dump a pile of it right here in the middle. Now remember I said I had my little screed board. So this is a nice little board for doing small areas, all right? I'm gonna take my screed and I'm gonna start pushing the sand to get it down level. And what I wanna do is I wanna get it to the point where I can start to see the top of the 2 conduits. I just push it back and forth. And I'm gonna ride on the conduits. I don't wanna push on the conduits. I'm just gonna ride on the conduits just a little bit. And as you can see, I'm getting a nice level surface here, okay? So this is what my brick are actually going to be resting on. If I had a longer run, let's say I was doing that 40-foot, what I could do, and I would never want to put more conduits together than one piece in each section. All I have to do is I take this conduit and I just move it down in its groove. I take this conduit, I move it down in its groove also, go back with my level, measure at the new end. I know I'm level at the old end. Look at that, I'm right on the money. Now I've got my conduits a little farther down. I can grab a little more sand, grab my screed, and I just slowly push the sand back and forth. And I messed them up a little bit, but that's all right. I can always fix. And now you can see how by using the conduits, the string, and my grade stakes, I can get a nice level bed to put my brick on.